We're losing the red shaded area that now is no longer public access to the park. And we're gaining the green shaded area. Now, you guys can propose a different piece of land to swap, but the non-compliance that's most immediate that this version proposes to resolve is the access from the public area.
But with the encompassing of all of it, we're gaining, we're taking care of that non-compliance for access with this, like you had stated, and then we have a secondary on the other side of the community center for the remainder of the park, which would be encumbered from the road out.
It's just that, it's confusing. In that even with the bigger process, we still have embedded inside that a small conversion. So one way or the other, we're still doing a small conversion. We still have to have, probably for the area of land, we'll get waiver appraisals if we can show that, it's essentially equivalent land value. But we still have to go through that process. Even if it was part of the larger grant to do some of the other work. So we're not.
What's the waiver?
A waiver valuation is if we can show, and it's generally in small conversions, and this is a great example. So a waiver valuation says that basically this land is, because it's right next to each other, and it's got the same frontage, it's the same area, nobody in their right mind would argue that it didn't have the same land value. So it alleviates the town from having to pay for an appraisal. We just say, we're going to write up the documentation for a waiver valuation. And that's what we would do here. And we could, if it suits the community, we could begin the work on this small conversion tomorrow. And it doesn't hurt anything, and it doesn't get in the way of anything else that you might want to do after. Yes.
Does it have to be, so will it be a deeded access through the school deed?
Well, so if we did this as a conversion, right now, or at the end of this conversion, small conversion. So right now, if we went back, so this is the project boundary now.
Mm-hmm.
That would be eliminated from the project boundary. And the new project boundary would come over to here, down to there, up, and essentially capture this access road behind the school.
Mm-hmm.
And then this becomes part of the overall project boundary and has to be part of the public park forever.
So it would have to be a deeded access in case we ever sold to the school.
Yeah, and whenever we, for worse, not better, but worse, the history of the land water program in Maine is that we never determined to add notice in the deed to any of these parcels. So that's one of the reasons why we have conversions. So there's a lot of, this is a great example because you had a municipal school that's no longer a school. Fortunately for you, there wasn't, these amenities were off the school grounds. But a lot of towns that no longer have a municipal school sell the school becomes assisted living. And the recreation amenities associated with that school are still there, but they're non-compliant because they're private ownership, not open to the public. So, if that record of the encumbrance had been in the deed, that would have prevented that compliance issue.
Was he next?
Sure.
Oh, before I was wondering for the architecture designer, can that be an intern from like UMaine or something like that?
Yeah, it could, but you're probably not going to get the greatest outcome.
Okay. No, you're not familiar with any
you want somebody that's
collaborative.
You want somebody that's done, that
Okay.
has designed municipal parks, public parks. They know
The ins and outs.
They know the ins and outs. They know what things play well together, what things don't go play well in the sandbox, things like that.
Yep.
Now, would it, take care of this if we had the town build a pavilion type thing for like a park, like Denmark has?
Build a building?
Like a
Like a pavilion?
So they could have shows or,
Stage.
You're gonna love this
bands.
answer. Are you ready for this answer? Recreation equivalency is not an algebraic formula. And so playgrounds and basketball courts are active recreation. A pavilion is passive recreation. You're sitting under a roof watching something. Those are not equivalent recreation amenities. So we could not replace the basketball court and the playground with a public pavilion that had seating for picnic. So that's where it gets really fun. is
well,
talking about-
Denmark has like a park
Yeah,
and they have a place off it so that we can have entertainment and
but you could
do
add that
different
anyway.
things.
You could definitely add a pavilion as part of this new process. And Land and Water could help pay for that. And there's pavilions all across the state that were funded by Land and Water. New Gloucester Fairgrounds Park has a beautiful new pavilion funded with Land and Water Conservation Fund, right next to a playground, so. But you can't use a pavilion for the recreation equivalency replacement value of the basketball court or the playground. That's the difference. Back there, then here, then there.
On the small conversion where it's in the green, is there any way, is that gonna be considered a bigger conversion if we wanna put all of the playground area and stuff into that, or can that still fall under that small conversion?
Right, no, there is no big conversion here. There's no big conversion.
Okay.
Unless the town decided you don't want this park anymore and you're gonna sell it and it's gonna become a data center.
So how do we get the T-ball field, the new playground, how do we get that
You
converted?
get that by applying for a new grant.
We have to apply before we can
Yeah.
put that in.
It seems kind of crazy, but the only way we can modify an existing project boundary is through a conversion or a new grant award. So we can't, remarkably, say, well, the town just wants to encumber 5 more acres. Let's just draw a new map. We can't do that. It's gotta be part of a process of either getting new funding to help in that process or part of a conversion that results in the addition of that. And because that area where the T-ball field is and playground is already in public ownership for outdoor recreation, that would not be eligible to be used as part of a
No,
conversion.
no, we have 2 baseball fields. We have the big one, and then we have a T-ball field.
Right. But, so, the existence of them means that you can't use them as part of a conversion. And the only way we can use that green space as part of a small conversion is because it's already in public ownership, but it's not in use for public outdoor recreation. So it's kind of a convenient way to resolve the access compliance issue.
But that T-ball field lays just on the other side of that green.
Right, and the only way we're gonna add the T-ball field is if the town gets a grant for land and water funding that includes, among other things, something on the side of the land that is not currently in the land and water boundary. Then we can build a new boundary.
Okay, so no matter what, we have to apply for a grant to get that encumbered into the,
Yes,
okay.
if you want it encumbered, you need it.
So we don't know what's going on until we apply for a grant? We don't know what the grant is, but I don't understand. Applying for a grant in order to get the playground currently as part of the
So-
Memorial Park, I don't understand, I'm sorry.
Let's assume that the community, after investing in the playground next to the old school, and since the T-ball field is already there, that the town wants to preserve that land for public outdoor recreation for the long haul. I think that's a safe assumption. The only way to add that land to a land and water boundary for perpetual stewardship obligations is to put have some land and water money touch that landscape. So that could be as simple as, I don't know, T-ball field's pretty much just field. Maybe there's a small amenity for the T-ball field. But that grant that you apply for can, and I think should, if you want to go down this road, include the entire area. So by including Dunn Memorial Park as it currently exists, and then adding a couple elements in the T-ball playground area next to the school, we're absorbing that space that's currently not encumbered into the space that is currently encumbered, and making a larger permanent protection around the entire outdoor recreation area. But before you do that, you need to go through the process of what do we want?
Well, I understand that, so I'm curious why we would want to pull over this little piece in green as part of Dunn Memorial if we don't know what we're doing yet with the rest of it.
One way or the other, you need to resolve access to the park, to Dunn Memorial.
Right.
That's the most egregious non-compliant part of this. So, and even if we did the larger project, we're still going to do that little conversion to gain the access. So there's no harm in doing that now, starting that now, and getting that small compliance done. That also can be absorbed down the road when you decide to apply for funding for the larger vision. But that's a good next step. And again, it's a small conversion. I'm sure that we can get, we can do a waiver valuation, which means you don't have to spend money on a appraiser. You'd have to get an appraiser and a reviewer appraiser, spending like 10 grand to say that, yeah, this is like same value. So it's an easy solution, not a heavy lift, and we probably ought to start on that.
We don't have to have that done before we apply for a grant?
You don't have to. Well, no. So that's a good question. Compliance takes a long time. I don't want to scare you, but I've got compliance issues that I've been working on for my entire career at the Bureau for 12 years now. And some of those were going for 20 years before that. Welcome to compliance. As long as a municipality that has a non-compliant site is working through a good faith effort to regain compliance, they maintain eligibility for all of the grant programs in my portfolio. So even, you don't have to have this resolved to be able to apply for land and water. You don't have to, we can't use land and water to resolve, so we can't use land and water to build a playground or a basketball court. But we can use land and water to do some other things. And the more I talk, the more I understand how confusing this gets. But it's really simple if we take it one step at a time. And I think the first step is to start on the small conversion. The next step is talk about what does the town want for recreation amenities on this site. And then that would be a good time to kind of circle back. Up front.
Yep, so if we did the small conversion, we wouldn't need the appraiser or the land architect.
For small conversion, you don't need either.
Right, you don't need either, so we'd save the money on that.
Yeah.
By just